Alright, so I made this video to answer a few questions on an article that I wrote for Mark's Daily Apple, telling my story with the Primal Blueprint, and the title of the story was How Not to Train for an Endurance Event. At the end of this video you can see the link to the actual article on Mark's Daily Apple. Alright, so let's get started. So I planned this video for not to be a very long, tedious video, but just to tell you the story of what happened between February and March of 2013 when I was training for the bike ride between Houston to Austin called the MS-150. Alright, so I kind of started this training around February 1st of 2013, and as you can see, I was riding straight off the bat very long distances, 30 miles for a couple of hours. This was my first ride with a road bike, but I was an avid mountain biker, so I mean, at the time I thought, well, why not? Let's start hard like everybody else. Then you move to February the 2nd, and there I was again, starting to push the envelope, 5 miles here, almost an hour of time. Not too difficult trail around Houston. And as you can see here, I started tracking heart rate monitor statistics, and this is thing that you should pay attention to is average heart rate. And in my case for this one was 137, 140. So I was pretty high. Then February the 3rd, I was then again feeling really good. And I was happy riding 42 miles then for 3 hours. And this training was with a bunch of folks that were going to ride the MS, and I was feeling compelled to keep up to the pace of the bunch of people that was training with me, that were training with me. And here you can see my heart rate keeps going up, the average at least. I was reaching pretty high numbers, 181. For me, that's maximum heart rate, just to be able to keep up with all the folks. And you can see duration-wise, starting to creep up, 3.5 hours. On this slide, I just want to show you really quick here. This is worth noticing. This Polar watches have a web application that have a calculation on training load, and I have no idea how they calculate it, but basically what this is telling you is that this red zone, you shouldn't be training. And as you can see, when I started the training right here, I put a big load, and that propelled me way up here. I mean, if you continue this chart, and then I did it again in here, and I did it again in here. So I was putting very heavy loads on my body, and as you can see, I never actually went down to the get ready to train more section. I always kept up there. So in the week ahead of that training, I did a couple of rides, but I didn't take my heart measurements over there. And then when we went to February 17th, then another big ride. This time 3.5 hours, more or less. Again in Bush Park. As you can see, let me see right here. Average heart rate continues to be pretty darn high. And this time I'm approaching 4 hours. And there I was, oblivious, riding at very high heart rates. So as you can see right here, my training load. So I had chilled. Well, I didn't measure what was going on this week, but I'm sure I went somewhere up there, and anyway, stayed up there. And then with this bike ride, I propelled my load way up, the training load way up there. So bottom line, recipe for disaster, as you will see later. Then I did another ride on the February 22nd, and this was again Bush Park. Very long ride here. You see, 4.5 hours for almost 62 miles. And again, I was getting in the mojo of road biking and feeling really good about it. And anyway, I mean, here, training load again, oof, way up. Never stabilizing down here to the green zone, always training up there, super high. And max heart rate again. Sorry, average heart rate 152, max 180. And what this is telling you with this trainings is that every session I had, I was training in an aerobic section of my heart rate. Again, March 1st, another big ride where I didn't take my heart meter with me. And then I did another big ride here with some of the folks that were going to run the MS, and it was 50 miles, almost 4 hours of riding. And this is what's going on here. I mean, a lot of hard work, is a lot of big training load here. And here I remember doing some work, but again, I forgot my heart rate monitor in there, so I didn't get the data. So that means that these charts are way up higher into the training load. And then I rode a very long ride in Houston, which is the Tour de Houston, and then again almost 7 hours right here. Average heart rate 156, and you can see the amount of time I was putting into road biking. This is another way of viewing the same data. Pretty much here, you can say that I was for almost 3 hours. My heart rate was above 163. That's very high for my condition. Let's see, let's put this here. And just with the Tour de Houston, here's a spike of the Tour de Houston right here, going up here into this level. All right. So you may be wondering why am I showing you all this data? So here comes the actual punchline. Well, what's going on is that I was not feeling good, and you can see on this table here, I want to focus your eyes on, let me see, right here, February until March. I mean, you can see the days that are going on, and the actual numbers to focus on are right here. And you will see that my fat content actually here starts to go up from 57 all the way until 61, until I stopped, and then fat content started dropping. And then the other part, I mean, contrary to the fat, my muscle mass was around here, 152, 150, and then it started dropping to 148, 150, until I stopped and tried to reverse this. So training at those high levels of anaerobic exercise will lead you to this kind of results. I mean, at least for me did. And I'll show you here in another way, graphically, well, what I mean, but the words I just said. So here, focus on this part of the graph. You'll see the fat content actually going up here in green, and then you will see here the muscle content going down in a graphical format. So there you go. I mean, that's what the data was showing me at the time. So very quickly I knew I was doing something wrong. So if you go to, Google and Google what's aerobic and anaerobic exercise, you will find pretty quick that these definitions, which are, if you train anaerobically, it means you're using carbs for energy production. There's no oxygen in your burn, and you produce lactic acid, and that's a problem. Basically, you get forced to stop exercising if you have too much lactic acid, and this was happening to me. So when I read this information, that led me to want to research more, and wanted to get this thing down here, anaerobic threshold at that level of beats per minute of my heart, I would be able to actually know where my limit was. So I went and did a VO2 test in Lifetime Fitness. They have all the equipment and it's pretty cool about getting these numbers to you. And I've made it. In this link that you find on this slide, you can see a full video on how to interpret this chart, but I'll redo it pretty quickly here. So basically, in my case, 150 bits per minute. You see this big red dot right here? Basically, if I go above that limit, meaning here, I burn 0 fat. So that was my limit at the time, of course. And then what happens is that in order for me to maximize fat burning, meaning for every calorie that I would burn, it would be around 90% come from fat. I would have to train with a heart rate around 110, 115. And this was a reality check for me because I was not ready to hear that, meaning I was always under the thought that the harder I would train and I elevate my heart rate, the better it would be. I would burn more fat, but obviously I was wrong. So pretty quick, if you train anaerobically for long periods of time, this can lead, what I found out with this experiment on myself, you can say, is that it can lead to a drop in muscle mass and you actually gain fat, not what you want. So how do I solve this? So this I solved by actually following the Primal Blueprint that you can find on Mark's Daily Apple, and on this link you'll find the actual article that I wrote for Mark's Daily Apple, which kind of tells the story without giving a detailed explanation like I just did on the numbers and what led me here. Well, this is it. Thanks, and I hope you enjoy this.